proudly includes a beehive, and its home ground is fittingly named the Hive Stadium. In 2014, its women's team was founded, and they became known as the London Bees FC. Over time, supporters and local press began calling the men's team the Bees, and the club fully embraced it. Why? Because of their traditional black and amber striped shirts, which resemble the pattern of a bee's body. Can you guess the name of this club? Yes, it's Barnet FC. Now, while Barnet have won their bees identity with pride, there's no evidence that they have ever specifically led a campaign focused on bee conservation. My fellow.
1 second, sorry. I've got to go back. Hit. The exercise itself improves your cardiovascular system, your metabolic rate, and your mental health, as well as strengthening your muscles, while the exposure to nature gives you all the benefits I've just mentioned. And the level of exercise doesn't have to be great. You start seeing benefits from just 5 minutes walking, running, cycling, or gardening in a green space. And if you're gardening with others in a community garden, or exercising with others like on the Kampala Bee Run, then you're looking at a triple hit, because then you're getting all the well-being benefits of social interaction as well as all the physical benefits. In Hackney, where I live in London, we're building on these insights. So we're working towards a vision of livable neighborhoods, what we call livable neighborhoods, which rest on 3 pillars. They're resilient to the effects of climate change. They provide a network for wildlife to thrive, and they support the physical and mental well-being, health and well-being of residents. And to create these livable neighborhoods, our local council is taking a whole series of measures, which includes planting thousands of street trees, reducing car use, encouraging active modes of transport like cycling and walking, improving the green infrastructure with rain gardens and other kinds of street planting, and it's recently introduced a nature recovery strategy. And the Hackney Buzzline is part of this. So we actually started. Volunteers are now telling us, they're still telling us that they feel more connected to nature and inspired to take action as a result of being involved in the project. They like meeting new people, they like socializing with their friends, but they also feel more connected to their community. And they all agree that spending active time, being active in nature, is important for their health and well-being. And so as the Hackney Buzzline is connecting people in London, our sister project, the Kampala Buzzline, is doing the same through the Kampala Bee Run. So whether it's in Hackney or Kampala, in London parks or Ugandan streets, it's exactly the same message that we got from that New Zealand study. And that is that our happiness grows, our health improves, and our communities thrive when we move with nature, when we connect with others, and when we come together for something bigger than ourselves. So I'd just like to end by wishing you all very good luck on the Kampala Bee Run. Thank you.
A community or as a platform to bring in more people to understand this communication we are trying to talk about. For example, given a chance that we have a bee run that is collecting 1,000 people, that would be really an opportunity for us environmentists, for us who are advocating for this climate change, for us who are getting for these pollinators. Social importance or the importance of the pollinators, they contribute towards the agriculture production. As we have this message, this would be a big platform for us to pass on this message. Look at integrating conservation message into this climate or bee run activities, the way we are doing right now. Before the conservation activity or the real bee run activity, we have these webinars. And what are these webinars doing? They are pushing on the message of conserving our environment, conserving our pollinators, showing people the importance of pollinators, showing their the contribution they have, and why should we have to protect them. So this is one way of us using these platforms or these runs as platform of passing on the messages, integrating these learning activities, these webinars into these runs is really a good move for us as of these messages. The branding way, how we are doing the branding. Look at our kits, the way people are designing these kits, it shows that there is conservation message within them. There is a reason, there is a purpose. It is beyond the physical fitness. It is something that we are really communicating in these runs. Well, how about we have showcasing where we can showcase the activities in the environmental conservation, in pollinator conservation during this very
to bring the nexus of climate change and the whole pollination process. I'm Curtis J. Allen once again. I'm a climate change analyst. I hold the Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Science from Makerere and Masters in Climate Change and Development. When we talk about climate change and pollination, what do we really know? We know that subjectively and objectively that climate is a resource which keeps the planet Earth within its minimum condition to support life. But again, this platform should know that climate change refers to the deviation in the long-term statistics of climate elements, which we studied at lower levels, the temperature, precipitation, etc., measured over a long period of time, usually 30 years and above. Objectively and subjectively, we know that climate change significantly impacts the pollination process, and that pollinators are affected by extremes of weather. For Kampala's case, you have seen that flash floods, heat waves, drought can negatively affect us as human beings, but they also affect the performance, the population of pollinators, and pollinator habitats. What should we really know? We should know that climate change increases the magnitude, severity, duration of weather extremes, which all negatively affect pollinators and pollinator habitats. We should also know, that question had come in before I shared this, we should know that climate change may cause plants and pollinators to develop at different rates. Scientifically, we call it phenological mismatch. And this affects the whole pollination process. Altered vegetative and reproduction behavior in plants due to climate change impact nectar quality and quantity. This is according to the research which is available. And generally, we should know that climate change leads to reduced pollination success, rendering to all the above issues talked about. Most importantly, very important, food insecurity may arise from reduced seeds and fruits production, especially in urban settings and rural settings. And these webinars really bring this information to the public. Healthy ecosystems provide the resilience needed to harbor a diversity of pollinators. Remember, resilience in ecosystems involves, keeping the structure, keeping the function of ecosystems intact despite the disturbances. So we need to know this. Pollinators maintain the biological diversity. This is where the question was focusing. The biological diversity, we are looking at the variety of life, but in particular, the plant species. And if this pollination process is impeded, we will have a lot of extinction of plant species. And of course, when plant species disappear, we have pollination specific species, they will also end up disappearing. What should be done? The nexus of climate change and pollinators plus pollination habitats. How can we save the pollinators in the face of climate change? We need to stop habitat fragmentation, which compromises the health of ecosystems. Have this in an example of having kids from the same mother, but they are separated. One is staying in Kampala, one is staying in the USA, one is staying in Kenya. They don't have that cream that binds them together. So if we have habitats, forests, swamps, which are getting fragmented by, for example, urbanization, it compromises the health of these ecosystems, which also compromises the activity of pollinators. We also need pollinator-tailored approaches to climate change mitigation. Climate change mitigation here, we mean addressing the root cause of climate change to reduce the severity. And this can be done through tree planting, mind you, tree planting, you shouldn't, wake up and say, I'm going to plant trees. You should have a tailored approach, looking at those trees which will bring you bees, which will bring moth, which will increase the activity of birds at night to do the pollination. We can also look at introducing pollinators from rich sites. We usually see this being done by Uganda Wildlife Authority, transferring animals from rich sites to low population sites. This can also be introduced in the whole Buzzline design. Then we can also integrate pollination and climate, looking at urban settings. I thank you all for listening. My call to you is to save the pollinators, which are the unsung heroes of the Earth's ecosystems. I thank you, and I welcome the questions.
Indeed, great. And thank you, Mr. Alan. You have made quite striking statements on how we can save pollinators in the face of climate change. Personally, I have two quotes to toast. Growing up, I enjoyed watching the Titanic movie. It featured one of the best actors of our time. That's Leonardo DiCaprio. He had this to say, leaving the movie industry aside. He said, clean air, water, and a livable climate are inalienable human rights. And solving this crisis is not a question of politics. It is our moral obligation. So it's our moral obligation to save the pollinators. And one last quote comes from Greta Thunberg. She said, I want you to act as if the house is on fire, because it is. Indeed, the bees and other pollinators are facing extinction. Now, finally, we come to Mr. Lamine Mane. Lamine Mane? Mr. Lamine Mane, are you there?
Then going to your question, like you asking, how do I see the core benefits of using learning and fitness with regards to plant pathogens? Actually, like if you look at pathology, you see a lot of it that is related to health, and health is also related to the food that we eat. The food that we eat is related to the pollinators. So obviously, there is a very strong bond between pollinators and health. So actually, looking at plant health, you see that plants are affected by different pathogens. but we barely pay attention to pollinators when it comes to plant health. For us, we generally think about the plant only. We don't think about what are some of the factors that make those plants to reproduce the fruit or the food that they produce. So our concentration is much more focused on the reproduction of the plant, that is the output, giving a blind eye to the factors, or you can say the elements, which are the pollinators, which makes that plant to produce. So if you look at the intensification of agriculture, we have seen that because of intensifying our agricultural sector, we have put more pressure on these pollinators. Because, as I mentioned, we concentrate more on the food, but we forgot that before the food, these pollinators, even though it is not only pollinators that, like let's say insects and birds and other pollinators that pollinate crops, but most of the fruit crops which are needed, the vegetables, they are pollinated by insects and other pollinators. So most of our concentration is on the other side. So what happens is when agriculture was intensified is that more of chemicals are used in production. And these chemicals, they are the biggest threat to pollinators right now. Like we have three main threats. We have the habitat, that is the cutting down of the trees or not having green spaces within communities. We also have the pathogens, which are living things also that affect the plants, and also they also affect the pollinators. And also we have these chemicals, the agrochemicals. The chemicals can be pesticides, they can be fertilizers, and they can be herbicides. So these three factors, they are the ones that are putting pressure on pollinators globally, and in combination with climate change as well. So what I've realized is that using fitness as an awareness, because fitness alone, like let's say marathon, it taught you a lot. It taught you that it's not only you, it's a team thing. And that team needs to work together in order to achieve goals within the community. Like when you go out to run, you don't run to be first or to be second or to be third. Like a marathon, you run to finish. And as you run to
preferences, forage preferences, and habitat resources. So I just wanted to ask Dr. Akol how she thinks that can be addressed.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Let me start by saying I work at Makerere University, and I've been doing surveys for bees in central Uganda. And currently I'm engaged in a small effort to see what bees are on the Rwenzori Mountains. Now, more specifically for Kampala, we've been encouraging students. I've had a couple of students trying to survey for the bees in parts of Kampala, though it's not very structured, but I would wish to do a more structured survey, hoping that the city authorities, KCCA in particular, would allow us to do that, would get the permissions to do that. It's not a very difficult thing to do, even if I didn't get much funding, but at least if I could get the permissions when I do ask. What we've done considerably some work, though there's still a lot to do, is to survey the bees on Makerere University campus. It's a green campus. I don't know if you've visited. And surprisingly, we have found at least 2 species of bees, which are fairly rare in the smaller family group, the coletids. And it's just one plant on the campus that has it. So that, for me, showed me that we could actually have a lot of unique species or rarer groups here on the hill without knowing that they exist. And I keep thinking of how to make the plea for the university authorities to allow some areas to remain green and kind of wild, semi-wild, But one of the challenges in Uganda, as you'll appreciate, is that there's very little appreciation for this group of insects or of life. And so it's small baby steps, but at least if we can document what we have, much of what we've found on the hill here at Makerere University is very similar to what I've found in central Uganda. And that's going to be what we found in central Uganda is what I'm going to speak a little bit about when I'm invited to give a presentation. So yes, there's interest now. People are starting to document, which is, I'm happy to see that effort. When I started out, I was, I think, practically the only one at that time, but interest has gone up. And let me also say, I successfully introduced a course on pollinator biology here at the Makerere University. So if we get a critical mass of interested persons, then the sky is the limit, so to speak.